Hello and welcome to episode 52 of the TRUUMAN Podcast, the podcast designed to create a generation of self-defined men. Today, I'm joined by Adam Smith. Adam, thank you for being with me. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Amazing. Well, thanks for being with me. And as always, I'll start with the hardest question on the planet. Adam, in your own words, what makes you a man?
What makes me a man? My ability to feel emotion without judging myself. I think that we've been conditioned as men for, well, I don't even know how long, centuries probably, going back even further, for actually having the ability to feel. So it makes me realise that I'm alive when I'm experiencing emotion, good, bad, and indifferent. And also following through with what I said I was going to do. That's also a huge part of things, because a lot of the work that I do with clients is that they have low self-esteem. They have low self-esteem because of the high expectations that are put onto them by society or by themselves. And they set the goal too big because otherwise they won't feel good enough if they don't hit it. So I help people to hit very small goals, and I use that for myself to build that momentum, to build the self-esteem, and to keep following through with what you said you were going to do.
Awesome. Well, I like the answer. It's a unique one for sure, but I definitely like it. You sort of scurried on ahead a little bit, but why don't you let people know what it is that you do in a bit more specifics, really?
Yeah, so essentially, to keep it simple, I'm a high performance coach for CEOs, athletes, business owners, etc. I help them with everything from taking a break from alcohol to reframing belief systems and labels that they have had for, in a lot of cases, decades or their whole life. And really, to put it simply, I help people stop feeling like shit. So, and to perform at a higher level. So that's it in a nutshell, mate. Really, there's all sorts of complex methods, techniques, skills involved in that, but that's it in a nutshell. Is helping people feel better.
Well, I'm sure we will get into some of those methods in a little bit more detail in a second. But I guess, as with myself and most of my guests, usually there's a story as to why we've decided to help people in our new careers and such. So let's go back to the beginning. What got Adam to where he is today?
Oh, depends how far back you want to go, really. I would say I'm not going to start in the womb, so don't worry.
Please.
I would say the sort of path of self-development. I've studied people for a very long time, since I was probably about 18. I worked in hospitality for 15 years, and you get to grips with human behaviour very quickly, how people interact with one another, the dangers to look out for, obviously, because you're dealing with hundreds or sometimes thousands of people, most of which are intoxicated. Your head has to be on a swivel. But I just loved watching the interactions of people. But that curiosity went back to my childhood, because I've got dyspraxia, I've got ADHD. This was undiagnosed till the age of about 15, and people at school just thought I was loud and noisy and disinterested. But I'd get so tired of trying to keep up with the blackboard or what the teacher was saying, I'd just start scanning the room and looking at human behaviour instead, not knowing it at that time, but that's essentially what I was doing. So I always knew that I wanted to help people, and working in hospitality for as long as I did, I managed thousands of people in very large organisations, and I thought there was many transferable skills to coaching here. And when COVID hit, I thought, right, well, that's it. I'm at the time 32, maybe. Yeah, 32. And I thought, I need to change. I need to pivot, because finishing work at 6 a.m. at my age, not ideal. And it's a young man's game to a degree, it's hospitality. And yeah, I just thought, right, well, let's do it. Let's have a look about what's out there. So I used to do personal training, so I thought maybe I'll do that. Maybe it's going to be football coaching. And then I love Tony Robbins and his content, and that's what I've consumed since I was 18. So I thought, right, well, I'll start looking into some of that, which was brilliant and really life-changing. But that all started, that sort of path to self-discovery, off the back of my own hardship. And the hardship was about 7 years ago. So I know I'm jumping through timelines a little bit here, but when I was in hospitality, I was working probably 80 hours a week over a Christmas period one year, and it just completely broke me. My relationship was falling apart at the seams. I was overeating. I was eating junk food. drinking too much, doing drugs, smoking, treating my body like a dumpster ground, essentially, and just trying to do anything I could to make myself feel better, not knowing this was actually destroying everything. And then I spoke to my area manager, who I really did not get on with at all, and said, look, I just don't feel right. There's something just, I'm waking up completely drained, crying myself to sleep, all honesty. And I hated admitting that because I didn't like him. So to be that vulnerable with someone you dislike was very challenging, as you can imagine. And anyway, so I got signed off from work. I went to the doctors and they're like, are you sleeping badly? I said, yeah. Right. What are your eating habits like? I was like, pretty terrible. Okay. Have you got much energy? No. Have you got much like zest for life? No. You've got depression, Adam. I was like, oh no, I've got depression. He's like, right, here's some tablets. I was like, I don't want to take tablets. So I know how to kind of cure this. I started to make some changes, but fast forward a week and my partner just came in one day and was like, this is over. 4-year relationship, just bang, gone. I was like, fuck. And then I was signed off for a little bit longer. In that time, I lost 3 family members, all in the space of about 4 weeks. So my auntie passed away, my uncle passed away, and a friend of mine did. I was like, right, so now my relationship's ended. I'm overweight, drinking too much. 3 family members or friends have passed away. I'll just go back to work. I'll throw myself back in head first. It'll be fine. And that was the stupidest thing ever because it made everything way worse. And eventually they got rid of me too. So now I'm jobless, single, again, like I said, fat, drinking too much, etc. This was not the blueprint that I had planned for my life at the age of 30 or 29, whatever it was. So I knew that things were bad and that I needed to make some changes. So I started to do little bits and pieces here or there, but by and large, I still wasn't looking after myself. Got a new job. That was even more boozy than the one I previously had. And it was one night stands. It was, vapid relationships. It was false significance. It was all that kind of thing, just to try again, mask what was really going on.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call one day from my best mate. He just said, my dad's died in his sleep. I was like, fuck. So that was the rock bottom moment at his wake, because I looked around the room and I thought, what's the point?
Yeah.
There's so much pain in this room. So I ended up sinking 10 beers, got in my car. I was hurtling towards a bridge at 100 miles an hour, and I got a phone call. And it just said "Mum" on the screen. And I answered it. I was like, hello? She said, oh, you've left your wallet here. Do you want me to drop it off for you later? I was like, oh, something just came over me. And I just slammed the brake on. The car spun out of control, and I just sat in the lay-by and just sobbed. Because I started to feel really guilty. And then I started to feel shame. Because guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. And that's what I felt like. I'm a bad person. I nearly ended my life. How much pain would I have caused? So over a long period of trial and error in the last few years and rebuilding myself, I knew I had to stop drinking. So I'm 4 years alcohol free now, smoke free, drug free, all that good stuff. And, I look after myself. Lost about 32 kilograms in body fat. And yeah, just changed my life around, mate, to be honest, because it was an absolute mess. So then I got into coaching eventually, and fast forward to today, and here we are. And now I'm helping other people avoid their own pain and their own challenges.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. It's always a tougher conversation to have, one that we both are hopeful that more people will have, and it's always good to hear someone else's story. So, and it's important, I think, as well. So thank you very much for sharing that side of it. It's useful for a lot of people for sure. I think one thing that's really overlooked, and is maybe something that you've come across and is something that you really want to talk about, is the alcohol side of sort of just, that's my way out of reality, right? You've got the basic level, which is let's have a beer every night. Let's just open a can or a glass of wine with dinner. And then you've got the extremes, which I'm sure you've seen, or it sounds like firsthand as well. What do you think is needed for men, or what do you think is the reason that men are so easily switched to booze and drugs and other vices as well?
A lot of men live a life of quiet desperation. It's a great quote that. I can't remember who said it, but it's so true. This isn't just a simple case of avoiding a few beers with Dave and Dan at the Dog and Duck on a Saturday. It goes way deeper than that. And a lot of the men that I've coached are high-performing men. This isn't your stereotypical association to alcoholism where they're scrambling for cans of Carling. They're performing at the highest level, but they're drinking a bottle of wine a night to, air quote, numb the pain. Numb the pain of what? Well, numb the pain of the stress of feeling the need to be the provider. Because most of the men I coach are 40 plus. So their fathers were from the generation of when men were men, and their fathers, and each generation just gets a little bit more in tune with their emotions, luckily. And it's no surprise to me that the older generation are killing themselves in high numbers, and they're in a very different way. It doesn't surprise me that young men are killing themselves in high numbers due to the pressures of social media and what have you. So the older generation didn't have that, but what they did have, by and large, were emotionally unavailable fathers. So the example set is that we don't talk about our emotions. We're not allowed to feel. Men still are told just to talk, which is absolute nonsense because most men get punished. Look what happened to me. I got let go of my job. My partner left me, and most of my friends moved away as soon as I started saying I was depressed and I needed help. So you could go, well, that was just unlucky. No, this happens with countless people. When you're winning, everyone wants to be your best mate. But when you're at rock bottom, no one wants to know. And it's because we don't know how to handle it when men do share. So we fix and we judge and we tell them to man up. We tell them to get over it, get on with it, toughen up. You're being soft. There's plenty more fish in the sea after a breakup. Because in fairness, we're very solution focused as men, typically speaking. So we want to get a solution to the problem. We don't want to talk about the problem. But again, we don't want to talk about the problem because every time we have, we've been punished. So it's a constant cycle, mate. And a lot of people say to me, I want to tune out. I want to zone out. I want to switch off. Alcohol helps me sleep. It doesn't. It sedates you. It knocks you out. It doesn't help you calm down. It makes you somewhat more relaxed for approximately 20 to 30 minutes. Then it heightens your anxiety. It heightens cortisol. So yes, you're right. I have got a unique perspective on this, not just as an alcohol-free coach, but having worked with the products for 14, 15 years. I have seen people die in front of me, two people, one after an attack, one after a heart attack. I've seen about 8 people get glassed or hit with bottles. Would they have done that if they were sober? No. I know people still have violent episodes when they're sober, so I'll understand that argument, but cognitively you're impaired. So people are falling over and breaking ankles, breaking legs, smashing the face on the pavement. You see couples that break up in front of you because they walk in and one of them's cheating on the other one because they're drunk. And again, I know people cheat when they're sober, but the common denominator in all of these is alcohol, whether people like that or not. That's the common denominator. And I saw it at first hand, and I don't demonize it. There's some great products out there. And if people that are listening can genuinely have 1 or 2 a week and they're really honestly happy, well done. I don't know how you do it. I never figured that out. Not because I was an alcoholic, but I just never figured it out. So I don't judge anyone for drinking, but I've got new information now. And had I had all this information, I think I would have changed it. So that's a very long-winded answer, but I think the short answer is that it's to use to mask emotion because they're fearful. The 2 biggest fears we have as people as we evolve is fear of not being good enough and fear of loss of love. So if I stop drinking and then Dave and Dan stop inviting me down to the Dog and Duck, I'm going to be lonely. And loneliness is a huge fucking problem, especially for men right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, things like that are a little bit easier these days with non-alcoholic beverages. I recently was in London, and this was something that I was dreading because I'm also like 115 days, like nowhere near your level. And I will drink again, but it's more of a challenge for me at the moment. And I was dreading it, really. I was meeting friends from uni, but it was some had one, some had none. Some had more than one, but the majority of us drank a non-alcoholic drink at the time, which was nice. But maybe Dave and Dan are more used to everyone getting on it, so there is obviously different dynamics for sure. One thing I really want to go back to, because I don't want to skip over it at all, is men and talking. Right, I hear it a lot. Men need to talk more. Men need to embrace their vulnerability more, and all of these things. Like for me, talking's the first step. right? If you just talk, you're just in an endless cycle. What's your opinion, and what have you come across in regards to men talking, and what do you think should be the next step?
So I hate mental health awareness days. Just because you're aware of it doesn't mean fuck all. So I much prefer mental health action. The reason why is it's not to say everything needs to be action and we need to suppress anything, but in some cases, men sharing can be worse just by talking about it. So if they go just to therapy and they sit on a sofa or lay down in the stereotypical, kind of way, and how did that make you feel? And how did that make you feel? Then what happened? And you just keep peeling back the layers of potential trauma or challenges. So I very much look at it as we need to rip out the proverbial weeds. We're not going to dance around the garden and say there are no weeds, because that's just not true. We can't say there's no issue here. If you're overweight, drinking too much, you're not having sex with your partner, and your children don't want to spend time with you, there's some big problems here.
Yeah.
But I will listen to what you have to say. I'm not going to judge you, and I'm not going to fix you because you're not broken. But what I will do is provide a space where you can say what you want. And a lot of people, again, this is a skill. This is why I believe everyone needs a coach. I've got a coach, and my coach has got a coach, and so on. Or at least have someone that you can share with.
Yeah.
Because if I was to tell my partner some of my internal thoughts, she'd break up with me. Not because they're horrible, just because she wouldn't be able to help herself from judging. I could tell my mum certain things and she'll think something different. So having someone professional in your life, and there are great resources out there, by the way, which are free. So you can ring Samaritans and what have you if it's really bad. But then I think it's about getting some steps in. I don't mean, well, in the literal case, getting some steps in, get outside more, right? But there's an enormous amount of problems that can be fixed by getting out in nature, eating a healthy diet, drinking more water, abstaining from alcohol, stop doom scrolling on social media, start to say 2 to 3 things that you're grateful for every day. That's not a huge list, and you're already doing most of it. So maybe we could just add some more helpful steps in. Then, after a week or two of doing that, let's gauge how you feel. Then more stuff might come out. No problem. You've shared. Thank you very much for sharing. What would you like to do about it? I've helped people. I've helped rape victims, cancer patients, people that have lost both parents in a car accident and they had to raise their sister on their own, whatever. I've seen it all, mate. And the one common denominator is that we need a purpose. We need something to wake up for and to get after.
Yeah.
But that is different speeds for every person, and every scenario is completely different too. So I don't believe in this let's just keep talking narrative. Talk, hold the space, then what we're going to do about it. That's my approach, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned from doing over 50 of these now is finding the right person to talk to, because there's levels to all of this, right? You've got a nuanced and just on, I don't know, it just seems like when people say talk as a man, it's like just talk to anyone. And I like, there is things to it. Like I've done podcasts with psychologists who explain mating and stuff like that. And I've done research on that. And one common denominator that women choose for a long-term mate is essentially, does he have his shit together? And they do that for a number of factors. Is he in good shape? Does he earn decent money? Like the what you'd call fickle or like showy things actually show something much deeper. So by breaking that into I'm going to break down and have this, you're actually showing a vulnerability which might not be congruent for a long-term relationship, which is something to consider. And we then go into the complexities of masculine and feminine energy. You might have a more feminine energy in your relationship as a man, and you're actually allowed to do that. But if you don't, then it's not the right person to talk to for sure. So I agree on that side of finding the right person, and still doing it. And then it's essentially the steps that I took, right? I actually never dealt with a coach or a therapist. I've just done everything. I believe the internet meme version is raw dog it. So yeah, I'm all.
That used to mean something very different to me as a kid, by the way.
I know, right? Like it's probably for the best that it's changed its meaning. Still find it funny to say because it still means something to me too. But yeah, that's exactly what I agree with, is just doing steps and doing that. Alcohol's obviously a big one. Let's talk about removing things, because you talk about adding steps. Is it easier to remove things from your life?
Great question. I think that if you want to stop something, you have to put in some resistance. If you want to start something, you have to put in some cues, like habit cues. So, for example, this is going to sound overly simplistic, but again, most of the best things in the world are.
Yeah.
So, similar to what you said earlier about alcohol-free alternatives, that's the 100% the best way short term, unless you are an alcoholic that is, having 8 pints a night and has done for years. Absolutely go to a doctor. But I would imagine most people listening to this podcast, it's probably more middle lane drinkers, right, at best. Some might be completely alcohol free anyway. But anyway, having alcohol free alternatives is a great starting point. But getting rid of the alcohol in your house is a great thing to stop, to just get rid of it all. Pour it down the drain, give it to a neighbor, give it to a friend. But if it's in the house, the likelihood of you going back to it is significantly higher. So you have to put the point of resistance in. If your habit is to go to the shop and get a pack of 4, get 4 alcohol-free alternatives. They're right next to each other more often than not. They might be in a separate section in a supermarket, fair enough. But then you can start to do that. Because for a lot of people, it's not actually the alcohol that they're craving. It's the feeling that it gives. It's the placebo effect. So it's the same with junk food. If you want to go on a diet, you don't stand in McDonald's all day, because you'll probably end up eating a few chips after a while. Environment plays a huge part. Some people say, I want to lose weight, but I eat chocolate because the children have it. Well, who's buying it for the children?
Yeah.
It's you. So you can stop buying the chocolate for the children in such large quantities. If you're having massive family bags of Sensation crisps, can you get smaller ones? It's tiny little things, mate. Honestly, tiny little changes. That's all it's needed. I had a client that wanted to lose weight. He couldn't lose weight because he tried everything, air quote. He liked a bowl of cereal on an evening. I said, are you measuring out your cereal? He says, no, I'm not a psycho. I said, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it, but you've got no context about how many calories go in a bowl of cereal. Would you agree? He said, yeah. So we need to get a baseline. He thought he was consuming 200 calories. He was consuming 600 due to his portion size. Over the course of 7 days, 4,200 calories is vastly different to 1,200 or, whatever. So
Yeah.
It's, or 2,000. So that compounded over a month is significantly more. So you have to do a full analysis of where you're actually at and what your vices are. And then, you have to put in some form of resistance to make sure that you don't do it. I'm on some medication at the minute because I've got a problem with one of my kidneys. The tablets are on the dinner table always. Even if I put them in a little cupboard, I might forget. But I have my meals at the dinner table. So when I eat, I have the tablet. Done. It's a simple cue for me to do so. If I wanted to stop doing X, Y, Z, I would not let it in my environment. Don't even entertain it. Even if you've got flyers for Domino's Pizza, get rid. It's these little prompts in your mind that you might go, oh, so the pizza's not in my environment, but the flyer is. So therefore, I need to get rid of that too. People go, isn't that drastic? No. On my phone, there's an app called Burnout Buddy. I put it on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Sky Sports. After 4 p.m., I can't physically access those apps. It's a right ball ache, the rigmarole you have to go through. It's not just a simple case of, I'll hover above it and go on it again. It's absolute effort to do it, and it's not worth the dopamine reward, so I don't go on my screen time as much. So yes, put in a blocker is the short answer.
Yeah, screen time's a bit of a killer for me. I've resorted to just leaving phones in different rooms because it's the amount of stuff I've gone through. I've bought a separate phone. I've turned my thing black and white. Everything. Can't do it. It literally is now just a case of this phone can stay here and I will go away from it. That's how bad it is for me. It's horrendous. But on that's probably one thing that I would like to sort of bring up is you've obviously been alcohol free for 4 years. You've been looking after yourself for 4 years. You've been focusing on your mental health. I'm sort of 2 and a bit years into this journey. We're not perfect. Even though we that's sort of, I think that's what a lot of people miss is they see these big figures, let's say a Goggins or something like that, and they go, yeah, but I can't run 100 miles and I can't do this, and you're doing it every day. And it's like, well, no, I'm not. Like, I still fuck up. I still get it wrong. I'm not perfect.
Perfection only exists in the dictionary.
Yeah, I mean, simple
Simple.
as that.
So, the thing is as well, mate, that perfection is similar to beauty. It's within the eye of the beholder. So what's perfect for your Sunday evening is very different to mine. And I think that a lot of the time, depending on who you follow, when we look at the analysis of when we work with a client, it's not just the diet of what's going in the mouth, what's going in your fucking eyeballs, what's going in your ears, what are you consuming every day? Are you watching the news at 7 a.m.? You've just woken up, you've opened up Instagram on your phone, and you've just invited in 3,000 air quote people, followers, to your bedroom. Before you've even left your bed, you might go on one picture and it might be of your friend and he's in really good shape and his girlfriend's really attractive and they're on holiday together in a nice destination. And you go, oh God, he's so much better looking than me. Oh God, look how ripped he is. Oh God, look how attractive his partner is. Oh, I wish I could go on holiday. Before you've even left your bed. And that's just one picture. Then
Yeah.
you keep scrolling. News. Oh, loads of children dead in Lebanon. Yeah, it's horrendous. Do you need to invite it into your space before you've even got a chance to open your eyes properly? No. So, but then what I'm getting at is with who you're following. You get to choose, by and large, who you follow.
Yeah.
So if you're following these inspirators, take the best bits of Goggins. Right, he's inspirational. Do I need to be David Goggins to be happy or to be fulfilled? Probably not. So that's okay. And a lot of people compare their reality to other people's highlight reels.
Yeah, for sure.
So they go, oh, I'm fat and miserable. He's rich and happy. I'm a loser. Well, again, they're not that happy, probably. You're not a loser, and it's going to be more than okay. But write down what it is that you want, and then write down why you want it. Start with the absolute basics. What does success look like to you? It's completely subjective. You'll see it, mate. You'll see mansions that have courses out the front. They value the large house, but they don't value an expensive car.
Yeah.
You'll see other people in modest houses that have a really nice Range Rover. You'll see some people that go to really nice holiday destinations, but go out to the cheapest local food stalls for whatever. But just ask yourself, if no one else's opinion mattered and it was only mine, what do I want? The amount of people that get stumped by that question when they start coaching with me, what it is that you want by the end of this 4-month period? Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. All they know is what they don't want.
Yeah.
And you feel like shit because the reticular activating system in your brain goes to what you say it does. So if you say, don't think of a pink elephant, don't think of a pink elephant, all you think of is a pink elephant.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to feel like shit. I don't want to feel like shit. Why do I feel like shit? Right? So maybe replace it with, I want to feel great. I want to get outside. I want to start looking after myself a bit better.
So I like this analogy a lot. It's obviously we lived originally with like keeping up with the Joneses, and now obviously it is keeping up with the Kardashians. Social media has magnified the best of the best. So yeah, it's really important to sort of reframe that and come up with your own thing. I've done a lot of work with people, and specifically, I've had this conversation with my brother as well. He's subsequently changed, but he was like, "I need to earn 100 grand a year," and I was like, "Okay, spend it." And he was like, "What?" I was like, "Spend it." He was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, if you need 100 grand, what are you spending it on?" And he was like, "Oh, I was like, "You might need more." You've not even told me. You've just someone somewhere has told you need to earn 100 grand, and you're now that's what you need to do all of a sudden, and you'll never earn it because it's not your thing.
Yeah. And also, I've worked with many high net worth individuals. Once you start getting to a certain tax bracket, you'd actually be better off earning 80, for example,
Yeah,
because you'll come away with the same amount or similar amount. And there's I can't remember what the study was called, but it was basically like a curvature of an amount of money. I think it's around £72,000 a year. So if you hit that threshold, then by and large, you don't want for anything.
yeah,
So you can go on a nice holiday, your mortgage is paid, you've got a car or a couple of cars. This is joint household, by the way. This isn't one person. So again, unless you've got 10 kids, right, then usually 72 grand, cool. You've got more than enough cash to make sure the household's running well. Kids don't need anything at Christmas because they're going to get presents, etc. But everything after that, it loses its value. So you could be earning 100 or 700 and you'll feel no different in essence, other than you'll be able to get more stuff. And because the options that the money does give you, not endless at 72 grand, but they're pretty high.
Yeah.
So anything after that, it's kind of like as I say, I can't remember what study it was exactly or what the exact amount was, but I know it was around that figure.
Yeah, I think it is around that. It might be a little bit more now with stuff going on, but I remember it too. Let's talk about actionable steps for someone listening now, right? We've gone over the shit talk of it and basically, I guess, belittled people's dreams. But how do they then start again? What's the steps? What can you do to start making your dream?
I think, again, it's not the sexy answer, and it's one that people have heard a million times,
Yeah.
but too many people go, right, I'm unfit, I need to run 5K. No. You're unfit. You need to open your laptop and you need to get the appropriate footwear. That's all you need to do today.
Yeah.
Cool. Then what do I need to do? I need to get outside and I need to walk for 10 minutes. Can you do that? Well, yeah, sure. Great. Congratulations. You've built self-esteem. But what we do is we operate in extremes. I'm miserable. How do I get ultimate joy? Or I'm feeling pretty miserable. How do I feel a little bit better today? 1% better than yesterday. So if you're going out for a walk for 10 minutes today, again, I know this isn't directly with percentages, but can I walk 10 and a half minutes tomorrow?
Yeah.
Can I go out for 11 the next day? In 3 months from now, you might be able to go, you know what? I feel like jogging. So rather than going on an hour walk now, I'm just going to jog a lamppost, walk a lamppost, jog a lamppost, walk a lamppost. Then I'm going to do that for 60 to 90 days. Then I might be able to complete a 5K. Now I've completed a 5K, perhaps I can start to improve my times for 5K. Once I can do a 5K at a good time, then I can extend to 8K and so on. So let the compound effect do its work, but to put it in absolute basic, simple terms, to work out how much water you need to consume, you need to do around 25 kilograms, 1 litre per 25 kilograms of body weight. So again, if you weigh 75 kilos, drink around 3 litres. If you've got a very active lifestyle, you might want to increase this. But if you're not drinking any water now, start with 1 and do it over the course of the day. It's 2 pints, 1 litre. People have no issue drinking 8 pints of beer on a Saturday. So maybe we could drink 2 or 3 pints of water, right? Can you eat a little bit healthier? If you don't know how to, get on the BBC Good Food website, type it into ChatGPT, go onto YouTube. We don't lack resources. We lack resourcefulness. There's a huge difference. And, that is the simplest thing you can do is just eat a bit better, drink a bit more water, and just get outside. That will compound into so many other positives I can't even tell you. Then you can get into more complex stuff like putting in boundaries, using crystal clear, effective communication, goal setting, journaling, what have you. But the absolute basics or essentials, if you want to frame it in a more helpful way, are those 3 things.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't even do that.
Is it stuff to do with like get rich quick and Beachbody ready in 6 weeks? Everyone wants the result, not the work.
Mate, people will pay 10 grand to get liposuction. They won't pay £10 a month to go to Pure Gym.
Yeah.
So,
That's
Uber, Amazon, Netflix, everything's at the click of a button. You'll see some people that go on a flight and, Wi-Fi might be down. Oh, fucking Wi-Fi's down. You're in a metal tube in the sky. It's pretty impressive as it is. Yeah. So, maybe we don't need the full connection to your TV just because you think you're missing out on something. So I think that a lot of the time, one of the biggest things people are missing is gratitude. They're looking for everything now and want it fast because they're not willing to look in the mirror and go, this is pretty good as it is.
Yeah. I've obviously been doing this for a couple of years now, and I think one thing that is I've already said is like I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. As you said, it's only in the dictionary. I always try new things, test new things. I fail things, like I've been trying to stretch more. I'm still still can't touch my toes. Like I'm
Mm.
horrendously inflexible. I'm still trying to find a way to incorporate some form of stretching into my day, my week, whatever it looks like. For me, I'm behind where I want to be, but I know that I'm trying to make it a habit. I'm trying to make it something because I know I need it. And I think I heard a quote which was like, you're building a life, like it's going to take a lifetime. Like you're never gonna, there is no, this is the morning routine and now you're away, because it's going to change. Like life changes. You might get kids, you might get a partner, you might lose a leg, like anything can happen, right? It's such a weird narrative, but you're right. That's the essential, the base level, and that side of things. Now we've got a couple of listeners, probably a few more, that might have already got all this and say, thanks for teaching me to suck eggs for the first
Correct.
hour. But let's sort of look at the sort of next stages, I guess, and sort of see what is it once we've got that foundation in place. Where do you want to take clients and where do you want to push them onto?
So again, we get the basic foundations put in. Again, I'm not a personal trainer, so when I keep talking about eating healthily and drinking healthily, it's mind-body connection and all that good stuff. But what you are consuming could be contributing to the fact you feel like shit, and you don't want to make anything worse. So getting the right amount of sleep is imperative. Prioritizing sleep I'd say sleep is the most important part of health. The reason why, you could go a day without water and you'll be fine. You might have a bit of a headache and a dry mouth. You could go a day without food and your stomach might be turning a little bit. You can have a day without exercise and you'll be fine. Try go a full day without sleep and tell me how you feel. There's a reason why they use sleep deprivation as a interrogation tactic. So, because again, the impact it can have on your cognition, on your productivity, your energy levels, weight loss or weight gain, etc., is stark. So, doing a little bit of studying into sleep. Matthew Walker is a sleep specialist. He's got some brilliant content out there that I'd recommend people start consuming. But again, don't just mentally masturbate, actually start to implement the strategies that he talks about. It's all the things of avoiding caffeine after 2 p.m. If you're going to bed at 10, it's avoiding screens an hour before bed. It's, don't sleep procrastinate on an evening, just doom scrolling and heightening your anxiety, etc. But I think one of the biggest things I work on with people, again, is emotional regulation and emotional intelligence. So it's looking at situations for what they are, not for worse than they are, and catastrophizing things. A lot of people I work with tend to catastrophize, and the thing that I give to them all the time is the most annoying analogy or metaphor ever. If you were driving down the motorway and you blew a tire out, you won't get out and pop the other three. So why, when if you've had a bit of a bad day, do you then need to drink a bottle of wine, eat pizza, maybe go out, get pissed, start doing drugs, have an argument with your partner? No, just allow it to be a bit of a challenging moment, allow it to be a challenging day. That's all that's needed here. And then you can breathe through it. You can regulate in a more helpful way going forward. So journaling is very useful. Once you're in your head, you're dead. You want to get out of your head as much as you possibly can. Yes, speaking to someone, but like we've alluded to earlier, the right person is, it's key. And also, you won't know if it's the right person until you've done it, because any decision is only good or bad in hindsight, unfortunately. You see it in high-level sport. The manager brings on a player and he scores the winning goal. He's a genius. The manager brings on a player and he gets sent off. He's an idiot. So we're the same with our decisions. You have to live and die by your decisions and then learn from them when it doesn't go your way and celebrate when it does. So, but, one of the biggest things, again, that we work on with people is Stoic philosophy. And again, if people haven't studied Stoicism, it's fascinating. But it all comes down to the dichotomy of control. And I think a lot of people are very miserable out there because they're trying to put all their worth in things that they can't control. They get annoyed at the traffic. They get annoyed at the weather. They get annoyed at what their boss may or may not say to them. They get annoyed about things in the news or who the prime minister is going to be. And I'm not saying that you don't have to care about anything. That's not what Stoic philosophy is about at all. But it's asking yourself today, what is in my control? It's actually very little. So there's a certain freedom to that, where you don't have to invite in all this negative energy to your space. And I don't mean energy like, shoving crystals up your backside, chanting kumbaya energy. I just mean, if you're inviting in a lot of negativity every single day, how do you think you're going to view yourself? How do you think you're going to view the world? Probably not in a very good way going forward. So there's so many things to dive into, mate. But there's no cookie cutter approach to my coaching anyway. It's similar to you, mate. I'm not perfect. I do not have every answer to everything, and I don't have it all figured out. I'm still very anxious. I still have moments where I have sleepless nights due to panicking about the business. I still sometimes overeat. You'll still have arguments with friends and family, but I know there's a lot of solutions that we do have that can help people. But I need to make their world more pleasant. It's not about saying my view of the world. It's asking them and digging deeper by asking good questions. But in terms of solutions, those are some good ones to get started with.
Yeah, I think just to summarize all that, it's controlling the spiral, right? Whatever way you're going, you're going to have blockers, and if you're used to going right, I've had a bad day, gonna get a pizza, gonna get some beer, gonna moan, gonna masturbate to hours of porn, then you're not going to be in a good place. But if you've got the tools to go, had a bad day, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to go for a run. It's a completely different thing, right? So that's for sure it. I guess I'd love to just quickly touch on emotional intelligence within men. I think it's something that you're specifically passionate about, obviously, with your personal journey with it, I guess, like sort of opening up and stuff like that. What are your views on men, and how do you think men can develop better emotional intelligence?
Again, I think there's partly men are to blame, but it's also women as well in how they respond. So if they display their emotion and then they're fixed, then they might go, right, fuck this, I'm not doing that again. They become more emotionally stunted. If you do have a partner that isn't emotionally available and they do judge you, you're not in control of how they respond. You're in control of your response. So again, dichotomy of control. That's why journaling is so helpful, because you're getting out of your head and you're making it real life, and you're making it external. You're not just internalizing everything that you're feeling right now. Fair enough, you're not physically saying it, but you are writing it down.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the huge blockers that men have. So it's not a Dear Diary, right? Like the old teenage films would suggest. It's just saying, you know what, yesterday I felt really overwhelmed. I'm supposed to be the provider, and I lost that new client, and I thought it was going to be a mega deal that I could take my kids on holiday, and I feel really guilty about it. Okay. So, but a lot of the time, mate, it comes from judgment. If we replace the judgment with curiosity, because judgment is, why did I do that? Why am I like this?
Yeah.
What is wrong with me? Curiosity, I'm wondering what I can do tomorrow instead. I'm wondering how I can make this more helpful. I'm wondering what a more helpful thought is. That, by the way, is the single best question you can ask yourself. What is a more helpful thought? It's not false positivity, rah, rah. It's just more helpful. So, for example, we do men's retreats, and year one, we had 10 people signed up, and a month before, 4 dropped out. I rang my coach. I can't fucking believe this. We had 10. Now we've only got 6. He went, stop. What's a more helpful thought, Adam? I was like, we've got 6 people on our first retreat. He went, there you go. What's another more helpful thought? I was like, we're going to get more time with the delegates. Yeah. What's another more helpful thought? They'll probably get more connection time with each other. The testimonials are certainly going to be stronger. Great. There you go. So we can do that. And, yes, if you put anything to the extreme, it sounds stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, my mum's just died. Oh, great. What's a more helpful thought? It's day-to-day shit that we deal with as men. It is the societal pressures. It is your friends negging you about how you look. Men have no problem with this, by the way. Women don't do it to each other outwardly. Men do. You walk in at the pub, and the man, it's not like, ha ha ha, look at your shirt. They're like, oh, look at you fat bastard. That's what's not all, by the way. I just want to clarify that. Not every men group is like that, but I've seen it firsthand countless times over the years, especially in bars. But that guy whose shirt you're taking the piss out of, that might be the only shirt that he feels comfortable in. Then he goes home and might not literally cry himself to sleep about it, but a lot of men are smiling in the light, but they're crying in the dark. So I think that we do have a responsibility to our fellow man,
Yeah.
number one. Number two, look at it for what it is, not worse than it is. Number three, keep asking yourself what's a more helpful thought. Number four, journal or speak about it to someone. Yeah, just keep being curious, asking yourself what and how questions. I'm wondering what made me not do that today. I'm wondering how I can make it better tomorrow, not why. That's the worst question you can ask yourself.
Yeah, I was sort of going to ask about your interpretation of all this in regards to sort of toxic masculinity, specifically stoicism, but I feel like you've answered that in the way that it's like essentially use your common sense when using it. Like don't you again goes back to this first the bit of the conversation we had, which is like this is not a rule book. These are concepts that you can try and see if they work. So
Correct.
I think you answered it quite nicely, which well, without answering it, if that makes
No,
sense.
I appreciate that, mate. I think when people say to me, "What's your thoughts on toxic masculinity?" I just say, well, "What does toxic masculinity mean to you?" Most people can't even answer me. They don't even know what it means themselves. It's just a phrase that gets thrown around to make men seem worse than they are. You know, again, women can have masculine tendencies and masculine energy if you were to label it by gender. So, it's like mansplaining, man-terruption. And while I don't advocate for men belittling women at
Yeah.
all, and I certainly don't advocate for men interrupting women in meetings and talking over them, why do we have to put man-terruption on it? Because it implies every single man does it.
Yeah,
That's the issue I have with it.
yeah, there's a few things around that. One that really pisses me off is Manosphere. One, because it's a really good name and I want it back. Like it shouldn't be used over there as toxic. I want Manosphere for what I'm doing, what you're doing. I want it to be this is the Manosphere, not
Mm,
toxic. So I'm going to try and
mm.
claim that back slowly. I agree. It's you can't just stick a man or even a woman in front of something else and say that it's the whole
Yeah,
thing.
you can also have toxic femininity if you really.
Yeah,
Why does everything have to be toxic? When people use the word toxic, it's just so overused. And I'm obsessed with the language and the words that we use every day because it drives our thinking. And a lot of it starts with labels, then it becomes belief, then it becomes action, then it becomes results. So if it's just toxic masculinity all the time, you're like, well, is it?
yeah.
Or were they just saying how they felt?
No, I think weaponization of words is becoming very dangerous, especially in the mental health space. That's probably my biggest thing is like I'm all open for open discussion and an understanding, but it's like actually gauging it. It's very easy to go, I'm depressed.
Mm.
Are you? I'm anxious. Are you? Like you're belittling people that are depressed and are anxious because you've had a bad day. There's a
That's it. You might just be sad. You might be overwhelmed. I think we need to be more intellectual about the labels we attach and more intentional. And as you've alluded there, I'm concerned about my meeting tomorrow with my boss because I've got no context to it. It doesn't have to be, I've always struggled with crippling anxiety,
yeah,
for example. It's just simply not true and it's not helping you unless you were born with an anxiety disorder, which is extremely rare. This is a learned behavior. You've perhaps developed a strategy that's unhelpful for dealing with moments when you feel anxious. That's what's really going on. So maybe there's some strategies we can deploy. Maybe we can focus on some meditation and some deep breathing. Maybe we can get outside in nature today and eat a good diet and not scroll on fucking social media leading up to it. So yeah, I'm with you on that, mate. The extremity of labels is out of control, and I think it's also just not helping anyone.
no, I think it's not a world I want to live in for sure. I'm trying to reduce it, like for better or for worse. I think there's a right time and a wrong time to use certain words, and I think it's that's where the education starts for sure. I guess on that, in regards to yourself, what do you think is being done well in the men's space, or what do you think there needs to be sort of more of in the men's space?
There are some great movements out there. Things like Andy's Man's Club has saved lives. Men's retreats are becoming more popular. Podcasting from people that don't have ridiculously over the top views for clicks. Because everyone just points to things like Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's toxic. No, he isn't. He has moments of saying things that can be. Unfortunately, he decides to do it more frequently than others.
Yeah,
But not everything he says is toxic. Vladimir Putin is not all bad. His horses don't think so. Right. So I think that there is a lot of good stuff happening that's getting better, and it is just going to take a bit of time. So yeah, there's more sort of sports clubs. There's running clubs for supporting men with their mental health. which I think is brilliant. It's a great step in the right direction. And while I don't want to contradict myself and say it's just that, oh, men just need to talk, but I think it's more than that. I think it's a camaraderie thing. I think it's a brotherhood thing. It's an ally thing. It's I've got someone else going through the same thing as me thing. And that's why I think things like Andy's Man's Club, for example, I've no affiliation to it, by the way. I just see it everywhere. I think it's great. So, yeah, things like that, mate, are definitely moving in the right direction compared to where they were 20 years ago. My God. And that's all we can ask for is it getting better each day? And like you, mate, I'm super passionate about this. And if you can help one person, and one person listening to this podcast might take action, great, because that is going to reverberate, and then their friend might see them making changes and they go, I want to make changes too.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do, to help one person.
Yeah, it's addictive, right? You help one person and they send you a message, or you work with them directly and they just say, this is great, I'm now better, or I'm now in the right direction. You're like, I want to do this again. Yeah, it's for sure something that I just want. Yeah, I just want more like this. I mean, today I was tagged in a post. Someone had written a really long post about their dad recovering from prostate cancer all around November. And then like 4 people were tagged in it and saying, these are the people that you should go and check out around sort of like men's things. And then one of the guys who was tagged in it commented in the bottom saying, you should also check out these 3 people. And I was one of those people, which was nice. So awesome. Yeah, it was good. But yeah, it's nice. Adam, genuinely, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, and it probably will happen again, either as a recording or just in general anyway. But what I'll do is I'll leave the final segment of the podcast to yourself. I'll let you wrap up, let people know where to find you if they've liked what they've heard. And yeah, thank you once again for being on.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation, and you've been a great host as well, by the way, asking good questions and allowing me to answer. So thank you for that. LinkedIn, unfortunately, I've got a very common name of Adam Smith, but if you type in A Game, it might come up, Adam Smith A Game. We're on TikTok as A Game Consultancy. We're on YouTube as A Game Consultancy. Instagram, same thing. And we've got our own podcast called A Game Unfiltered on Spotify, Apple, etc. if they want to follow more of our stuff.